Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Fed Flash Face-Off. I am Gary Ryan, the Fed League Flash. So glad you could join me for this episode this week. There is a little bit of a somber tone to this episode as we do have more news regarding another team in the FPHL. Probably not going to be around much longer. So stay tuned for that. We've got our mailbag segments. A lot of you have been sending me questions, and I aim to answer. So we'll talk about those things. In our Flash Chat segment, we are talking about, is it time to realign? Now, this episode, the Flash Chat comes after news and notes, and there's a reason for that. I would recommend that you watch both. Watch news and notes first. If you usually just watch a segment or two, watch news and notes, and then you can go to the Flash Chat. Now, the subject for the Flash Chat is it time to realign, to reconfigure the FPHL? We always have to do it a little bit every year because teams come in, teams fall out, whatnot. But are we talking about perhaps time for a radical realignment? We'll talk about that, so stay tuned for that. We'll also give you some snapshots of the previews of this week's playoff series. Now, obviously, as I've released this, game one between Columbus and PD is already in the books, but I've got a pre-record, so there you go. Just in case you're wondering, by the way, that is the Cape Cod Bluefins behind me, team from the second season. Well, kind of latter part of the first and then the second season. But anyway, all right, so let's jump right into this. Thank you so much for joining me. Always remember that you can go right down here where it says more. Click on that and it'll bring up the list of the segments. Click on the timestamp for your favorite and chosen segment, and you can go right to it. But I would recommend, this show is only an hour long, so tune in for the whole thing. A lot to cover. All right, let's jump into it.
You've got mail.
When you control the mail, you control information.
All right, welcome to this week's mailbag. Yeah, I'm where I do my Flash Chat segments and the news and notes. We're simplifying this week. Okay, so many of you have contacted me and asked questions and whatnot. So we just want to kind of address things here. As you've sent stuff in, I'll answer it for you, and we'll see. We'll see what kind of questions come next time. All right, so first of all, question I got from a couple people is, what is the attendance record for the FPHL for a playoff game? Now, specifying that this is talking about playoff games. We've had big crowds during the regular season. Obviously, we had the record for a single game by PD earlier this season. Well, now they also hold the record for attendance for a playoff game, which last week they drew 5,725 fans for a playoff game. Previous to that, the biggest crowd was 5,013, and that was May 9th of last season, the final game of the year, as the Binghamton Black Bears won their championship. I know a lot of people have gone, really? We haven't had a bigger crowd than that? Well, no, because we haven't had a lot of larger arenas host playoff games. Unfortunately, we never had a playoff game in Baton Rouge. Biloxi had the one, but it was a Wednesday crowd. I believe it only drew about 3,100. And then, a lot of the regular playoff appearances come from teams that have smaller arenas. For example, Port Huron, Watertown, Binghamton is right around that 5,000 mark. And that's one of the larger ones. Danbury is under 3,000. Let's see, Carolina, Twin City, 3,150. So you've had some teams that have been in the playoffs on a regular basis, but they're in smaller arenas. So surprise, surprise, 5,725 is now the record-setting mark for attendance for a playoff game. I have a hunch. I'm releasing this on Thursday. I have a hunch that the game that was played yesterday, even though as I'm recording this, it hasn't happened yet, has a bigger turnout with that game in PD against Columbus. Just have a feeling that's going to be close to 6,000 or more. Anyway, okay. Next question that I had was, one person asked me, very curious with Monroe, what happened to Austin Albrecht? The team said something about an injury, but it was kind of a cryptic post. What happened to him? I will not release any details because actually I don't know many details. All I know is that there was a personal conflict and Austin Albrecht chose to leave the team. Beyond that, anything that I might think or say is purely speculation. I do know that much. That was Austin Albrecht's choice. And there you go. So that's what happened to him. He played through, what was it, mid-February, I believe. Mid-February or maybe even early March. And that was the last we saw of him. Now, there were a rash of injuries that did happen to Monroe over the last month and a half of the season. I was talking to Pete Fricano on Monday, and I'm not going to mention anything just purely out of respect for the players' privacies, but he mentioned to me that a couple of players were dealing with some pretty major stuff. Either they were able to play or they weren't, but if they were playing through some pretty major injuries. And that does tend to happen. Hockey is a rough sport. You even see it at the NHL level. You end up hearing after the fact that so-and-so played with a broken foot or something like that. A couple of years ago, I remember Gus Ford had a major ankle problem, played through the whole playoffs. You never would have guessed he had an ankle problem. And it all worked out. Okay, speaking of injuries, a couple of players, a couple of fans, have asked me, what's up with Gavin Yates of the Binghamton Black Bears? What happened? He's been out for a while. All I can tell you is that he is out with an upper body injury. One of my contacts knows what's going on, but just out of respect to Gavin, he hasn't told me. I have an idea, but again, speculation. So I'm not going to mention it. All I can say is that Gavin is injured, probably will not play the remainder of the year. If he comes back, that'll be something pretty amazing. Okay, let's go on to something a little less personal. Some people have asked me, okay, this naming contest for Mid-South, why wasn't the Mississippi River Kings name considered? This was addressed when at the very first press conference Mid-South had to announce the team. Andres Johansson talked about wanting to formulate a brand new identity. Okay. He said, choosing Mid-South rather than Mississippi or Memphis, because they're not really in Memphis. Mississippi, well, you risk alienating people from nearby Tennessee, because remember, where the arena is, it's right on the border. It's in Mississippi, but it's pretty close to Memphis, Tennessee. It's in the metro area. He didn't want to, shrink down his target audience, so he said, "We're just going to say Mid-South." Okay, so that's why the name was not considered. And again, he did specify that before the name the contest or name the team contest was even announced. All right, and I know a lot of people went and posted that as a suggestion anyway. I don't want to sound rude or anything, but you didn't listen. If you submitted that name, you didn't listen. All right. So the team is going to be Mid-South. We now know it's narrowed down to three choices. What was it? Outlaws, Kingsmen, and Monarchs. I understand all three, the reason for all three suggestions, or offerings, I guess I can say. Those did come in as suggestions from fans. And so I don't even know how exactly they did the contest, whether they chose, well, this received the most suggestions, so this is one of the ones we're going to have, or did they just go through, make this decision, hey, these three, we like these three names, let's, narrow it down. I don't know. But anyway, regardless, yeah, River Kings was never in play. Okay, so let's see. Question: how was Hugo Koch able to be picked up on waivers this last week? I guess this question would also go for Blake Peavy getting picked up by Topeka. Now, Blake Peavy never played with Topeka. Hugo Koch did play the one game with Blue Ridge. How did that happen? The league granted an extension. That's as much information as I know. I've got my opinions on that, but I'll hold off on that. Anyway, the league granted an exception, and this was confirmed to me by members of both organizations, both Port Huron's organization and Blue Ridge, in Koch being allowed to play in that one game. How that worked out, I don't know. I don't know the details, so I'm just answering the basic question. How was he able to play? Well, there you go. And the league said okay. All right. Some people have asked me about Motor City. Okay, coming back, getting ready to play in Yak Arena in Wyandotte, Michigan. And some people ask me, well, since they're coming back, do they get their players back that they had before? The answer is no. And the reason for that is, well, there are many reasons, but what it boils down to is Motor City had to be dispersed. Okay, all those players had to be made available to other teams in the dispersal draft last year. Okay, some players have retired. Some players aren't even playing in the FPHL anymore. And then for the players that are still playing in the FPHL, like Trevor Babin with Columbus, or Scotty Kowash with Topeka. Okay, Topeka and Columbus, they own the rights to Kowash and Babin. So Motor City will have to participate in the expansion draft, start from scratch. They can do their own recruiting. So even with the 12 players that they would select in the expansion draft from the other teams in the FPHL, okay, that's just a building block. They can, if they can reach out to some of the players that are playing in like the APHL now and say, hey, do you want to come back and play for us? They're free to do that. And some players might say yes. Others might say, thank you, but I'm good. We don't know. That's all up to the individual players, and the team's going to figure that out. So the players dispersed through the league, and so Motor City had to rescind the rights to those players. Okay, clarification, because people asked me before, and because I mentioned at the point last week, I mentioned I'm not sure what this means. I got some clarification, and I got an answer regarding the protected lists that teams will formulate. Another 4 teams will be posting, well, not posting, but they will be putting together the protected list. It will be posted in the league intranet. You and I will never see those lists. All right. But anyway, it's 12 players that you can protect, and no other team can touch these 12 players. Can't draft them, anything like that. Plus 3. Well, what's the plus 3? This is what I wasn't sure on, and I got my answer. Thank you to numerous sources. Don, Danny, Bob, thank you. I appreciate it. The 3 players, the additional 3 players, are collegiate or junior players. Now, not every team decided to sign collegiate or junior players, but for those who did, you can protect 3 of them, and that's not bad. You signed up to 5. I believe Monroe signed 4, if I remember correctly. So they can protect 3 of the 4. Not a bad deal. And that's great. That protects your future interests. You've gone out to recruit these guys and bring them in, and you've given them their first taste of pro hockey. And so for the most part, you're going to be able to keep them. That's great. So there will be 3 teams selecting as of right now in the expansion draft. That is the Minnesota Northern Lights, the Mid-South whatevers, and the Motor City Rockers. So those 3 will be making selections. And then after that, there will be a dispersal draft. And we're going to talk about that in the news and notes section as far as why is there a dispersal draft? Well, because there are teams that are not going to be with us this next year. We did have some more sad notes after I broke the big news about Athens this last Sunday. News for another team did come in, so make sure you tune into news and notes if you haven't planned on doing so already. Okay, so that is Mailbag. Let's give you a little bit of a glimpse, just a brief snapshot or 2 or 3 into the coming series this week. Surprise, surprise. This is not the last segment of the Flash, the Fed Flash Face-Off video. It usually is, but not today. And there is a reason for that. For those who do like to tune in and watch the whole thing, thank you, by the way. You got to watch this before you can really take into context the information that I cover in the Flash chat. So that's why this is earlier in the segment. Okay, first of all, wanted to spell a rumor that's out there. I don't know how this started or where it started, but I can assure you Blue Ridge is not getting moved. There's a rumor out there that the team is getting moved to Ohio. That is 100% incorrect. The team is staying in Blue Ridge. They still have 7 years on a lease agreement with the Hitachi Energy Center. So they are going to be in Wytheville, Virginia for the long haul. So Blue Ridge fans, don't worry. You will have your Bobcats next year, just like you did this year. Okay, let's move on, talking about the playoff schedule. And if you watched the playoff preview segment there just a little bit ago, you saw it, but I want to review it again. All right, it is Wednesday. The Columbus River Dragons travel to PD, play in PD, 7:15. Thursday, game 1 in the Empire Division Series, Port Huron hosts Binghamton, 7:05 on Thursday. All right, no games on Friday, which is really, really strange for a league that, focuses on Friday and Saturday dates. I guess there were scheduling conflicts, and so, we don't have any games on Friday. Saturday, both series will have game 2. Columbus will host game 2 Saturday, 7:35. Binghamton will host game 2, 7 o'clock. Sunday, if needed, Binghamton would host game 3, 5 o'clock start, and Columbus would play at 6:05 on Sunday. So Wednesday for one, Thursday for one, and then Saturday, and if needed, Sunday. So there you go. There's your schedule. Now, because of the fact that we have our team set and the strength of schedule, the points that were earned in the regular season, we can say that regardless of who wins between Binghamton and Port Huron, the Empire Division will have home ice advantage in the finals. So even though we don't have start times, I can give you the dates of the finals. Game 1 of the Commissioner's Cup Finals would be held by or hosted by the Continental Division winner, whether it's Columbus or PD. That's Friday, May 1st. Saturday, May 2nd would be Game 2, same venue. All right, then, same as the last few years, the venue would shift to the Empire Division Arena, and those games would be Friday, May 8th, Saturday, May 9th, if necessary, Sunday, May 10th, if necessary. So there you go. Friday, May 1st, and Saturday, May 2nd, hosted by the Continental Division winner. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, May 8th through 10th, at the Empire Division winner. All right, so there you go. Switching gears to Twin City. Many of you probably saw the news or heard the news, but the Twin City Thunderbirds have a new coach, a very familiar person, and I think a lot of Thunderbirds fans are thrilled with this choice. John Butita, aka Boots, he is going to be moving from player to coach role. Now, Butita has served as an assistant coach, a player assistant coach for the last couple of years. So coaching is not new to him. This will be his first full-time head coaching gig, but he's well versed in what is required of the responsibilities there. Joining him on staff will be Zach White. He will be a player assistant coach. So already, the Thunderbirds have the first player for next year, if you will. It will be Zach White, and he will serve in that assistant coach role as well. And then another familiar face, for the Thunderbirds, Tucker Firth. He will serve as scout for Canada, presumably looking specifically at juniors players. So there you go. You have three players that are well established in the Thunderbirds community now serving on the staff. So there has been a little bit of a revamp there. Exciting times coming up for the Thunderbirds. Okay, let us go into the not so pleasant news. And of course, we've already been talking about this from point to point over the last couple of days, and the teams that are no longer a part of the FPHL. First being Athens, of course, broke the story Sunday that Athens is moving to the SPHL for next season. New information that I have gotten over the last couple of days suggests that this was in the works for quite a while, that negotiations with the SP began before Christmas this last year, and that the details were all being worked out. So actually, the fact that the rumor mill was kept at bay as long as it was really is something. It's pretty amazing. But yes, this has been in the works for quite a long time. And again, as I mentioned in Sunday's video, this is something that Athens has wanted right from the beginning, when they were just forming as an organization, even before they had the Rock Lobsters name. Their goal was to join the SP, and the SP at that time rejected their application because there was a secret partner involved of ill repute, who shortly after the vote down, that person was no longer affiliated with the Athens Rock Lobsters in any way, shape, or form. So, but that was why the SPHL initially said no. Really no reason for the SPHL to object right now. So, yeah, that's what's going on. Now, before we get to the other not so happy news, we will say we are watching very closely the Watertown situation. As we reported on Sunday, they are in talks, getting details figured out with a couple of prospective ownership teams or groups. So they hope to have something resolved and completed and finished by the time that we get into the Commissioner Cup finals. They are hoping to make an announcement saying, hey, there's been an ownership transfer. We have this group in place now. So that is very good news. That it looks pretty certain that Watertown will be saved, barring something just completely falling apart at the last minute. But as of right now, things are encouraging and hopeful, so we'll go with that. All right, I do want to mention breaking news. Yeah, and just to specify on this too, I do not like bringing this news. For some reason, a few people have made comments and assume that I get my kicks off of making announcements like this. And that is the farthest thing from the truth. I do not like making announcements like this. But I do have to inform you that the Baton Rouge Zydeco officially are done, and they are going to be folding. There was a last-minute effort to try and transfer ownership. There was an interested ownership group, and they were ready to purchase a team and take over operations. Unfortunately, the Raising Cane's River Center said, we are not going to deal with this party. So the arena basically nixed the deal, and at this point, it's much too late in the process to try and find another buyer. So the Zydeco are done. I have received confirmation from members of the FPHL on this. It's sad and it's an unfortunate situation, but we kind of had an inkling that this might be happening. And unfortunately, doubling the pain, Biloxi is also done. There's been all sorts of crazy rumors out there. Well, maybe Biloxi can go to the SP. The problem is not with the team or the management. The problem is with the arena. The arena, the Mississippi Coast Coliseum, does not want hockey anymore. They say it's too expensive. It is they're losing a lot of money on the arena operations. They're done with hockey. So this isn't a decision that was made by the Biloxi Breakers. This was not a decision that was made by the FPHL. This was a decision that was made by the Mississippi Coast Coliseum. A lot of people have asked me, well, can't just relocate? It is not that simple. Relocation costs a ton of money. A ton of money. And that's why you don't see relocations happening at this level of minor league hockey. It's just not possible. So we are definitely down 3 teams from this past regular season. Athens is gone to the SP, and Biloxi is no longer existent, and Baton Rouge is no longer existent. Now, Biloxi released a whole laundry list of players on Tuesday. There are only 15 players left on their roster who will be available for a dispersal draft. All other players have been released by the organization, such as the organization is right now. So, unfortunately, yes, Biloxi is officially done, and Baton Rouge as well. And my condolences, and I'm saying that wholeheartedly, to Zydeco fans, to Breaker fans. This is a very sad day. These were 2 markets that the FPHL were really counting on, and it just didn't pan out, unfortunately. So there we go. I'm breaking the news to you now, and again, I'm sorry that it's to this point, but yes. So we have the 11 teams, the other 11 teams that played this last year. We have Minnesota, and we have Mid-South, and then hopefully we also have Motor City. It's looking pretty good. It's not official, but it's extremely probable that Motor City will be once again a part of the FPHL for next season. So there's our news and notes. Not the happiest news to end with, but it is what's happening in the FPHL right now. Okay, so let's transition from this into Flash Chat to talk about the subject at hand.
Luego de tan va a bouger en la vie, faire la rang, et le fait maintenant, on parle de What did he say?
All right, so today for Flash Chat, I'm going to be talking about the subject of realignment. Is it time to realign? Now, obviously, from year to year, there's always some kind of realignment with divisions, with teams, what division they're in, because you have teams coming in, you have teams falling out. That's going to be quite accentuated this year, as shared earlier in news and notes. Our current alignment is now off because there are 3 teams that will not be returning to the FPHL next year. So now what I did is I put together a little board, and obviously not the scale, but this kind of gives you a general idea geographically of where teams are located, all the teams that are registered with the FPHL as of right now. Now we have the Northeast, we have the Deep South here, we have the Gulf Coast, we have the Northern Midwest. All right, so this is just give you an idea of where teams are. But of course, we have to change some things here because we know that we are missing some teams. We are missing Athens for next year. We are missing Baton Rouge, and we are missing Biloxi. Those 3 teams are gone. We're still working on the scenario and the situation up in Watertown, but as of right now, as I reported on the news and notes segment, things look hopeful there. So we're just going to go with the assumption that this is what we have left for next year. Now, we do have the expansion Minnesota Northern Lights here. Since we do not have a team name for Mid-South, I just got the FPHL shield representing Mid-South right here. And we do include Motor City. Now, if we count teams, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 teams once again next year, because we have Mid-South coming in, we have Minnesota coming in, we have, as far as we know, Motor City coming in. So same size league, just some different teams. Now, if we go by the alignment that we have had over the last few years with an Empire division and a Continental division, well, we see right now there is a problem. All right, now, we got 5 teams down here and 9 teams up here. That's not going to work. Now, you could do a couple of things here. You could balance things out by, you could move, my fingernails will work. You can move Blue Ridge and Topeka into the south, or the more southern teams, and you get balance, but it's kind of strange Topeka being in the south. They're not in the south. They're in Kansas. Kansas isn't in the south. Blue Ridge, it would work out because they were kind of on the border this last year anyway, moved up into the Empire Division. But I don't think this really works. All right, so let's put Topeka and Blue Ridge back where they were before. All right. Again, that's where our line is, and we've got to do something here. So, if you rework things, you could potentially have this set up like this, but it doesn't really work. It's just not right. Moving Topeka into the south, it's just odd. All right, so moved our line. Let's look at this again. All right, we got another possible idea. And I think this is the way to go. I really do. I think overall it's going to save on travel because you do have the footprint of the league being stretched out once again, with Minnesota being way up here. You still have some solid pods, and I want to look at these pods because that kind of gives you an idea of how we could shape things. You got your cluster of northeastern teams, like last year: Watertown, Binghamton, Danbury. All right, you got the teams down here in the deep south. Not 5 this year, it's 4, but you have 4 there. All right, in the upper Midwest, well, this is where things kind of get a little a little interesting. You could have, um, you know, Port Huron, Motor City, Minnesota kind of grouped together, and then you can have Indiana, Topeka, Mid South, and Monroe. All right, I think the solution is pretty simple. Instead of a north-south alignment, you have an east-west alignment. I really think this would help cut down on the travel. You're not going to have as many intra-divisional games, maybe, but you could still have some. But Minnesota, it's going to be tough. If they're not playing Port Huron, Motor City, Indiana, or Topeka, it's going to be really tough on them. Your options are kind of limited. Same with Monroe. Now that both Baton Rouge and Biloxi are out of the picture, it's a darn good thing for them that Mid-South is coming in. But this last year, we had quite a few games between Topeka and Monroe. It's about, about a 12-hour travel time there. So that's not too bad. All right. If you have an alignment like this, okay, you could have some intradivisional games, but better yet, in my book, you have the ability to play every team in your division. It would still work out. Travel wouldn't be quite as harsh. That's one of the big problems I think we had this last year, is that not everyone, in the Continental Division played all the Continental Division teams. Same in the Empire. Travel-wise, it wasn't feasible. But now you've got a good situation where, this can work. You do have a longer trek between Watertown and Columbus, obviously, but it's doable. Watertown and Columbus have played each other in years past. Minnesota to Monroe, I'm not so sure about, but it can still work out. If Topeka proved anything this year, it's that they could travel and travel well. Topeka actually had a better road record than a home record this last year. So it can be done. Would a situation like this work? I think so. You can still have some intra-divisional games, like Monroe and Mid-South could travel to Columbus, Twin City, Blue Ridge. You could also have Port Huron and Motor City could still play a few games, against the northeastern teams, but they can also focus on this. Obviously, when the schedule comes out this year, Minnesota is going to need a lot of help, but I think this is a better scenario. What say you? Leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think. All right. Also, there's one other subject that I wanted to talk about in lieu of all the changes that we've had. Let's talk about some more. No, not with teams. But a concept that the league attempted to bring in last year, and they just didn't stick with it. There were pros, there were cons, but I've had some people that I've talked with on this subject, and we've kind of bounced some ideas back and forth. One person has this thought, another person has another thought, and kind of put it together. Remember last year, we started off the year at the beginning of the year, and we had the points system. The point system was the idea, and the objective was to try and help get everyone on more equal footing. All right. Obviously, the league has always had a problem with teams that are pretty well to do, like your Athens and Binghamton and Monroe, teams like that, and teams that are struggling, like Watertown or Indiana. Maybe there's not as many resources there. So the idea of the point system was to try and bring some balance. You put a cap on how many points your roster can have, and then everyone hopefully is on more equal footing. Unfortunately, there were a couple of teams that abused it, namely Athens abused it to the point where it was just a mockery, and the league just basically abandoned the point system because it wasn't happening. But if we could enforce something like this, is it worth bringing it back? Now, just to quickly run down the point system, you get awarded a number of points to each player, depending on their professional experience. If you're just starting out, you're a first-year pro. This is your first year in the Fed. You've just come out of college or whatever. Okay, you get 1 point. If you're somebody like Austin Albrecht, who's played numerous games in both the SPHL and the ECHL, you probably more like 8 points. Okay, you group your roster 20 plus 1, and you put a cap on it. When they tried this a couple of years ago, it was 50 points. Okay, and actually, most teams were able to abide by this. There were 3 teams that were over the cap when we started the year, and like I said, Athens was just ridiculously over. They were at 83. The cap was 50, and they were at 83. It was ridiculous. But I think the concept was good. You fed players, depending on how many games experience you have, you're either 1, 2, or 3 points. If you have SP experience, SPHL experience, you had 2 points or 4 points. ECHL was 4 points or 8 points. If you had played games in the AHL, a number of games, well, you were 25, which that was quite a jump from ECHL. I think that was too much. But the whole concept, again, was to try and balance playing field. Now, there are currently rules in place that have always been in place with the Fed that I like and that are enforced, such as you have to have 6 rookies, players who have played less than 100 games in the FPHL. You have to have at least 6 rookies on your roster. If you didn't have 6, you're not playing. All right. I like that rule. There was also a cap as far as the number of veterans, players that have played more than 250 games. 3 per team max. Makes sense. All right. I like that rule. Because, again, we're talking about the Federal Prospects Hockey League. The whole mission and the whole idea of the league is to get people started in pro hockey and to help them move up. Or at least it had been in the past, maybe not so much this past season. This past season, there were other things in play, and we're going to talk about that in 2 weeks' time. as the FPHL continued to kind of battle for talent and markets and all that with the SPHL. We will talk about that in 2 weeks. But here's the question for you. And this is going to be a forum. I want you to participate. Leave a comment either on my my Facebook page or here on this YouTube video after I release it. Because I always link the YouTube video to the Facebook page. Make your comments down below. Should the league try this again? Maybe different numbers, maybe different point values. It's got to be enforced. Should the league bring that back? Or is it better that we just stick with, you have a minimum requirement with rookie players, you have a maximum limit with veteran players, you're trying to get more younger players in? Let me know what you think. I would love to hear what you have to say and give you an opportunity to interact and participate. So again, just leave a comment again, either on the Facebook page in the comment section or down below here in the YouTube video. I would love to hear what you think, and how, or any other ideas, even that if you have other ideas of how to help teams to, not necessarily, we don't have to have full-blown parity, but allow for better competition for all teams. If you got any ideas, put them down below. Love to hear your ideas. So those are our 2 topics that I wanted to cover in this flash chat. Thank you for putting up with my doodles and all the magnets and everything like that. All right, why don't we wrap things up with a big bow? So that wraps up our show. I'm sorry to be the bearer of some bad news. Unfortunately, every April and May, it does happen from time to time. We'll hope for better things in the coming weeks and months. Speaking of coming weeks, I wanted to invite you to join me next week as we tune in and focus on something a little bit happier. Every year, the last 3 years, I do my annual Fed Flash Awards. Unfortunately, they're not physical awards like the top star of the year was, but I do want to give credit and recognition and some accolades to some people that I think are well deserving. My personal choice for things like League MVP, Rookie of the Year, Broadcaster of the Year, things like that. Sometimes I'll pick the same person as the league, sometimes I don't. And it's not that I disagree with the league or think that their choice is not good, but perhaps I think of someone else that they might have overlooked. So tune in for that. There'll be a lot of fun. That's going to be a special presentation that replaces Flash Chat just for next week. The week after that, we get back to Flash Chat, and I think you're going to want to tune into this. We're going to talk about the war that exists between the SPHL and the Fed. And yeah, there is a war, behind the scenes war, that does exist, and we'll talk about that. Has the SP gained the upper hand in the battles that go between the 2 leagues? And a lot of people have commented about how they feel that the leagues should merge and there should be one single A league. Logistically, I like the idea. Unfortunately, you're dealing with people and egos and differences of opinion and differences in business models, all that kind of stuff. So we have 2. Anyway, so tune in for that. That's in 2 weeks. All right. Always remember, you can follow me on Facebook. If you haven't already, check me out there. here on YouTube, and I also have a WordPress page. I do occasionally print articles that you can find by going to FedLeague/9 at WordPress. I'm sorry. Let's do that again. FedLeague/9.wordpress.com, and you can follow me there as well. Thank you so much for joining me. I do appreciate it. I am Gary Ryan for the Fed League Flash. Until next time, keep your head up, keep your stick on the ice, and always, most importantly of all, be excellent to each other. We'll see you next time.